What's up, my friends in fantasy football fandom? Wherever you may be, however you may be watching, thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. We're going to start it this year. We toyed with it last year. Wasn't until later in the year. But me, Tex, and a couple of friends are going to give it a go. We're going to try to do a weekly fantasy football thing, starting here with week 1 and going all the way through to the end of the fantasy football season and probably into the playoffs a little bit, just for shits and giggles. But yeah, here we are with the shape from the Lone Star State. My man Tex, what's up, brother?
What's up, football fans? This is truly the most wonderful time of the year. I mean, did you see that Cowboy game? I mean, aren't we all happy? 40-0. Come on, man.
I think
Aren't you
most people
excited?
stopped watching in the second quarter because that's about when the game really ended. About 8 or 9 minutes left in the second quarter. I think I was pretty much done with it anyway.
Man, I was over there just happier than a pig in shit. I was just happy. I was just screaming,
Hey.
"How about them Cowboys?" You know. So.
That's all you ever say, though. How about them Cowboys? And I want to see Michael Myers and other people. That's the only thing your life revolves around. You're so one-dimensional sometimes.
What more do you need? Tell me what else do you need out of life?
I guess there's something to be said about being a simple person, but that's all right. No big deal. I'm getting simpler as I get older anyway. And my good buddy Marcus is going to be joining us. I would imagine for most of these, he seems very, very excited to be here. What's up, Marcus?
All right, just enjoying the day, trying to get a little bit better, more professional like y'all and trying to do this. Not using a tablet to join y'all anymore.
Since when were we
professionalism from us?
Y'all are more professional than I am. Shit.
When did that happen?
Yeah, if you're waiting for us to be the example, you are going to be very, very. You have been misled.
Or you the one just talking about giving me your extra light or whatever, just because?
Hey, I could buy. Hey, if I went and bought a Formula One race car, that doesn't mean my fat ass to be a Formula One driver. I still wouldn't roll that thing over 40 miles an hour. I'd be scared shitless.
Fair enough.
So I could build a whole studio, and I still wouldn't be professional. But let's get into the football talk again. This won't be a 2 or 2.5 hour long stream like normal. This will probably be a little bit shorter off the jump while we kind of figure out the format of all this. But there's plenty to talk about today, starting with the obvious. And I'll go to you first, Marcus. I mean, Monday Night Football, a lot of hopes were on the line. Were the Jets finally going to put together a good year for the first time since probably Clinton was in office, that kind of thing, since Vinny Testaverde was their starting quarterback? And it took all of 4 plays to completely demolish all the hopes of Jets fans for the year. I mean, for all the saga that was Aaron Rodgers eventually leaving Green Bay, that really went on for probably the last 2 or 3 seasons. Was he going to stay? Was he going to go retire, trade, whatever, free agent? It all kind of like hit with a big thud as soon as he went down to that Monday night game. What are some of your thoughts on just the mess that has been Aaron Rodgers' now very shortened season?
I mean, honestly, I didn't expect it to go like 4 plays in to the beginning of the regular season. I figured he was going to get injured a little bit later on. Not upset that I did, honestly. If anything, maybe it's just a reminder that he should just stay fuck home on the couch and do what Tom Brady does and just stop. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, but he is a great player. But even then, every now and then, you get to a point to where you're just going downhill. And it was first play that he had done. It took him a minute to get back up after being sacked. And that was just a clear sign that he's not in a state where he can just go, get hit one time, get back up, and continue going. Now, I personally am not an Aaron Rodgers fan, like I said. But, I mean, yay, Jets sign. How much did they sign for Aaron Rodgers to actually join them?
Too much money. He gave up draft picks. I don't even remember what the deal was, to be absolutely honest.
Yeah, for him to now be out.
I believe the deal was 4 years and $75 million. I believe is what it was.
He's gonna be on the bench or doing whatever for the first year, so definitely made that money worth it.
Yeah, no doubt. I like how Sporting News already has a Aaron Rodgers trade revisited. Yeah. We're gonna look back on it now and be like, maybe this wasn't so worth it. But I mean, how about you, Tex? I mean, me and you had kind of talked privately and just about that whole saga, how it was all handled by both Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. What do you think of this rather disappointing and quick finish to his season?
Well, I mean, what's the old saying? Jets are going to jet. I mean, this is kind of fitting in a weird, sick, twisted way. But I do think it's kind of odd. The man was paid $75 million, and if you go look at the play clock time that he played on the field, it's about 75 seconds. So somehow Aaron Rodgers, he got the most money he could in the exact amount of time. Whether he planned this or it was just a weird accident, I don't know. But I just find that irony just delicious. But no, it's, this was Monday Night Football. This was, 9/11, two teams from New York. We saw Aaron Rodgers take the field with the American flag, the whole thing. Spirits were, it was, obviously it was nowhere near what the level of patriotism and unity we had on 9/11. But in that moment, when the opening ceremonies of that game it kind of reminded you of it. And, a little over a minute later, Jets are back to being the scourge of the AFC North. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it is what it is, but, you hate to see anybody go down like this, especially, I mean, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers guy. I think he's kind of overrated, and he's been riding the legacy of something he did, over a decade ago, winning the Super Bowl. Hasn't really done much since. But, you still don't want to see anybody hurt like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody hurt, but I do think it's kind of interesting that for all the drama that he has caused, at least the last 2 years, that this is kind of maybe not where it all ends, but this is where we've gotten to at this point. You know what I mean? For all the darkness retreat, for all the ayahuasca sessions, for all the nonsense and the stupidity, for all the not playing a preseason game for X amount of years or whatever, because he didn't want to risk anything. For all the stupid prima donna bullshit that he says he's not into, but he very clearly is, especially with his behavior, that this is kind of where it is up. That to me is hilarious. I mean, it's hard not to kind of it's one of those things where you want to laugh at it because it's so stupid, but at the same time you want to be upset because you like when teams do well. You like when players do well. It's exciting to watch football when as much as I've hated Tom Brady over the years and shit on the guy, I mean, he's made the league very watchable. He's drawn eyes to the league. Either you want to see him fail or you want to see him win, but bottom line is you want to see him. So it draws a lot of people to the sport. Here real quick is the trade. The Jets received Aaron Rodgers, the 2023 first round pick, which they used on defensive end Will McDonald IV, and a fifth round pick that they ended up trading to the Raiders. The Packers got a first round pick that they used on defensive end Lucas Van Ness, a second round pick they used on their tight end Luke Musgrave, a sixth round pick that they used on a kicker Anders Carlson, and a pick next year that is conditional second round that becomes a first round if Rodgers plays 65% of snaps. I'm no math genius, but I don't think he's going to get to 65%. I mean, he's going to fall about 64.999% short of that, I think. But here's the problem, and Colin Cowherd brought this up yesterday, and I was listening to him talk about it. When Tom Brady went from New England to Tampa Bay, he looked at Tampa Bay and said, "I want an O-line. I want an O-line because I can't do Tom Brady things if I'm getting my dick stomped in the mud." And that makes and no quarterback can do anything unless they have a decent offensive line. So they went out and got an offensive line. They drafted a guy. They signed some free agents. They built an offensive line that Brady was happy with, and the very next year they go win Super Bowl. That's how quickly Tampa Bay turned from a average team at best to a Super Bowl champion. the Jets, they get Aaron Rodgers, who is no spring chicken. He's 39 years old. He's pretty ancient in NFL years, especially even in quarterback years. He's getting up there. And you didn't give him an offensive line. It's like, I don't know if you guys watched, there's actually a YouTube video out there that has the entire four plays that Rodgers played before he got hurt. And in every single one of them, the offensive line pretty much was just out on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got his ass kicked. He had no time. He threw one ball away. I think one was a running play that didn't go anywhere. There was another one that he got chased around, and then there was the one that he got sacked.
Yeah.
That he ended up injuring himself. And I'm like, it's like you went and gave up all this draft capital. You went through all this shit in the media. Are you going to sign him? Are you not going to sign him? Blah, blah, blah. You put yourself into all this, and you didn't even get him an offensive line. Me personally, I've always said if you ever made me the GM of a professional NFL team or of a football team in general, the first thing I concentrated on, offensive and defensive line. Because that's always been where the most important players in football are. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
But that's always been where football games are won, is in the trenches. Even back in the George Halas days of the 40s, that was where football games were won, was in the trenches. It's great to have that big arm quarterback and a fast, speedy receiver and a running back that does crazy things, or a Darrelle Revis type cornerback that intercepts the ball and dances into the end zone 50 yards later on a touchdown. It's nice to have those things, but you got to win the battle right there at the line of scrimmage if you're going to stand a chance. And the Jets didn't do that. The other thing that kind of bothered me about the whole thing is Rodgers spent the last 2 years in Green Bay bitching about how they didn't give him a team, they didn't give him enough weapons, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing that happens when he does end up finalizing the deal with the Jets, he makes his way to New York, puts his hat on, stands there, does the press conference and all that. He says, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy that I played with in Green Bay. It's like, wait a minute, you couldn't win a title with them there. What makes you think you're going to win one of them here? It's like, I want Lazard. Great. You had him for 3 fucking years in Green Bay. You didn't do shit with him. It's like, what are you going to do? What's he going to do here? I don't know. The Jets were trying to get back in the game with one swing with Rodgers. It was a dumb trade for the Jets to begin with. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, it was a good win for them. I mean, they did come back and win the game in overtime. It was a very football game the rest of the way. It was a lot of back and forth. Josh Allen didn't do very well, but I mean, give him the win.
Did they win that, or were they given that game?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Final score is what it is. They came through. Right. They didn't piss away the opportunities they had when they were the most important towards the end. Whatever. That's a clean win in my book. I can't shit on it. But that might legitimately be the only win they have all year. I can't. I mean, I haven't looked at their schedule that closely, but it's like they've all been saying if they went from a pretty average 11-win team with Rodgers to, if they're best, a 5 or 6 win team. With
the Jets have got
back under center.
The Jets have got Cowboys this week, and we just saw what that defense did to the Giants. So God help them whenever they. I'm not saying that the Giants are. I mean, the Giants were decent at the end of last season. I give them credit where it's due, but you can't look at Micah Parsons and that defense that Zach Wilson's going to have to go up against, and you can't tell me that you're expecting, any real miracles out of this guy. You know what I mean? There's a reason why they went after Aaron Rodgers and gave up on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just sad. This whole Aaron Rodgers saga for the last couple of years. Is he going to retire? Does he want to get traded? Is he going to whatever? And then finally the whole thing breaks. He goes to the Jets, and it's like, great. Kind of a fresh start because sometimes a relationship is just bad, and the best thing for both people involved is for the relationship to end and for everybody to kind of go separate ways. It had been there for a couple of years with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but it's like
Aaron Rodgers is not a team player. He has always been worried about, or he has been always more worried about a MVP trophy than a Super Bowl trophy. I mean, go back and watch old interviews of him when he was in Green Bay. Even I didn't see all of Hard Knocks this year, but even now he has the same, central personality. And if if anybody else can come along, fine. But as long as he's doing good, whatever. But what year? See, what year was it that Green Bay won the Super Bowl? It was the one at Cowboy Stadium where they played Pittsburgh. Was that what 14 years ago or something?
It's
13, 14 years ago.
it's
been
That's the last time. That's the last time he did anything as a team. He's always been all about him. He doesn't care about anybody else. And it's just, he's a very selfish player. I mean, from the Joe Rogan interviews to everything else that he's done. Skip Bayless is right about this guy. He's a prima donna. He's a very, he's a very fragile one. And obviously, I mean, at 39 years old, you pop an Achilles like that, he may never come back. I mean, he may never touch another football field again. That's completely possible. You know what I mean?
Well, and that leads to the next big question: is he's not 25, he's 39.
Right.
When you're 23, 24, 25 years old and you injure your Achilles and you tear your Achilles, within 8 or 9 months you could theoretically be back in on a field doing football like workouts. I mean, theoretically you can be ready for next training camp. But at 39, that shit doesn't heal the same way. Well, it doesn't heal. It doesn't heal as fast. There's a real possibility that he's not ready to go for next year from this thing.
Aaron Rodgers wanted so bad to be Tom Brady that he willed himself out of Green Bay to go somewhere else. He was literally just trying to copy Tom Brady and what he did.
Yeah,
that's all this was. And Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. He's got the MVPs. He's got a Super Bowl. He's a future Hall of Famer. There's no arguments there. You can't deny him what he's done. But he's no Brady. He hasn't won 7 Super Bowls. Brady, I mean, the whole argument, who's better, Brady, Montana, we've had that discussion on Derail before. But Aaron Rodgers is neither of those guys. And he just wants so bad to be him. You know what I'm saying? And it's an ego-driven thing with this dude. And, he paid the price for it. So it is what it is.
Marcus, what about you? Is this really it for Aaron Rodgers? I mean,
honestly, it's been it for him for a while now. Like, it goes to prove, like, okay, granted, the Bears aren't that hard of a team to beat, but you go to the Green Bay versus the Bears game, and it clearly shows that, okay, cool, they don't got Aaron Rodgers anymore. So who was going to take over? How well were they going to do offensively versus the Bears, which Bears put up a decent fight, but at a certain point, it just went to shit for them because I watched that whole game. But it shows that Green Bay can handle it fine without Aaron Rodgers. It sucks, really, because in the end, the New York Jets just got a losing deal. They signed a big check for a big-name player who's, I want this, I want that. Whereas, like, you can even go to Joe Burrow. We lost. I'm a Bengals fan. We got our asses handed to us this weekend. But Burrow is a team player. He's like, we got to get better. I know where I messed up at. I understand where we went. We got to improve. I mean, that you can't just be the eye in the setup. You've got to work with your team. And Aaron Rodgers really never felt to me like he cared for the team aspect, like Tex was saying. It is very much, what can I get out of this that benefits me? How do I keep the spotlight on me and do all of this stuff? And it just goes to show, like, it's very much, it's like the Batman saying, you either live long enough to be here, you either die here, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. He's becoming his own villain. He is shooting himself in the foot here. Okay, cool. He could have left a while ago on the peak of his season, like Tom Brady, and just been like, okay, cool, we left at a peak, we're going to rest, relax. But they're both wanting to go further. One more. We want to do one more. And it's like, okay, cool. You're not where you need to be at to do this anymore. And Tom Brady, I think, kind of realized that very quickly, too, because no one wanted him for this season. And honestly, Aaron Rodgers just sat out and just finished retiring, too.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers should have just, when he left Green Bay, he should have just said, you know what, I'm calling it. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody expected him to make the Jets a Super Bowl contender this year anyway.
No.
So, I mean, at least Tom Brady went to a team that was pretty good, that had a quarterback that threw a lot of touchdowns, but also threw for 40-something interceptions in the same year. So Tom Brady knew that there was weapons down there. There was talent. All he had to do was not throw all the interceptions, and he would be fine. And that's what Tom Brady does. He throws not just for a good level of touchdowns at that point, but he throws for way fewer interceptions, which is going to cut a lot of points off the other team's take, and you're going to win a lot of games. So he was going to a good situation. I don't see how Aaron Rodgers thought that going there was going to be the end-all, be-all of everything. They didn't have the talent that Tampa Bay had a few years ago when they were trying to draw Brady away from New England. They didn't have any of that stuff. They have good coaches, but not the talent. It takes time to build a winning team. And I think that Aaron Rodgers thought that he was the missing piece of the puzzle with the Jets, and he just never was. Which is the only reason I would have made that trade if I were the Jets. Because if you think about it, I'm looking at it again. The Jets ended up trading down 2 spots in the first round this year, which isn't a big deal. They ended up trading from the 5th round up into the 2nd round of this last draft. I'm sorry, down. They ended up trading down. So they got stuff they could use. But, I mean, if the big thing is the money to Rodgers, I mean, you're paying for his name. You know you're paying for his fucking name. He's not going to put up great numbers. He's not going to put up Mahomes numbers. If I was the Jets, I would have looked at it and said, let's say that we win the division. That means we have to beat the Bills, which I was a lot higher on the Bills coming into like last year. But the last season, so far this season, they haven't looked all that great. Then we have to go through Cincinnati, which is a much better team, really. Then we have to go through Kansas City, which is a much better team. It's like, so there's 2 playoff games that you're probably not going to win right there. So is Tom Brady better than Mahomes? No. Is Tom Brady better than Joe Burrow right now? No, not in my opinion. Week 1 notwithstanding, no, he's not. I lost text again. There he is. He's back. But oh shit, I take him out. There he is. But yeah, there's so many teams in the AFC that were ahead of him. And then to top it off, let's say you get through all these teams. Let's say you beat Mahomes in the playoffs or you beat Burrow in the playoffs. Then you're going to run into a buzzsaw like Philadelphia, San Francisco. I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams in the NFC alone that if they end up in the Super Bowl, he's probably not going to beat them either. So what was this all about? You're going to end up getting the same results in New York with the Jets that you were probably going to get in Green Bay if you just stayed and played another year there. Why not just call it a career and just bounce? Bounce from Green Bay, go away. You've made all your money. You've got a ring. You got a couple of MVPs. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Going to the Jets does you no good. But that's just my thought on things. I don't know. If I'm wrong, you guys let me know in the chat. I just don't think that for him, I don't think that made any sense at all. If I were him, I'd have said, you know what? They've got Jordan Love. My best games are behind me anyway. I'm going to go ahead and bounce. I don't want to be one of these guys that goes to their team and does this. Favre went to 2 or 3 other fucking teams after he left Green Bay. I think even Brady was just like, I'll go to Tampa because I live in Florida and Tampa's got a good team and I can squeeze out one more ring there. But then I'm pretty much done after that. He didn't hang around either. So I don't know.
Well, that's what I was about to say is, he should have learned. I mean, he saw Brett. He was the guy that took Brett Favre's job and saw him go to, New York and then Minnesota and just completely tarnished the legacy that he had built. And for him to, I mean, I understand the ego of a athlete. You never want to, you never want to hang it up. It's not. Very few players go out on top or go out when they should. I mean, Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest Cowboys of all time, goes to Arizona, gets his leg broke, and that's how he ends his football career.
That was
Joe
sad.
Montana. Oh, it was. Yeah, I mean, Joe
I was
Montana
always a
didn't
big
go to
Emmitt Smith fan, and I hated. Look, me as a Niner fan, I hated seeing Emmitt Smith wearing anything other than a Cowboy star on his helmet. It didn't work. It didn't fit.
When I grew up, the '90s Cowboys were my childhood. That is still my favorite era of football. To think of Emmitt with a cardinal on his helmet, not a blue star, felt like a travesty of epic proportions. But there's so many of these stars that they think they have one more in them. Troy Aikman was one of the very few that obviously he had the concussion problems and stuff. He wanted to continue to go play somewhere else, but for his own sake, no team would take him because of the concussions, and that ended up actually being better for him because look at what he's doing now. But Rodgers was, well, like I said, he thought he could do a Brady thing, and unfortunately, here we are. I'm willing to bet he never touches a football field again. Even if he's healthy by next season, hang it up, dude. Hang it up. Go take ayahuasca with Joe Rogan and go do your thing. Whatever. I mean, go chase aliens in Mexico on your ayahuasca drugs. Have fun, dude. Go live your life. It is what it is.
Yeah, but go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, was it a smart move to even go to the Jets? I think not. Do you think he's going to come back, or do you think he's going to retire? Honestly, I think he's going to come back because he's too pig-headed. I just don't think he's aware of himself enough to honestly look at himself in the mirror and say, maybe this is it. Am I really going to get another ring anywhere I go? I mean, maybe if he would have gone to some place like the Niners, he has a chance. But the Niners are like,
well,
we already had 5 too many quarterbacks at one point. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, I know we're about to move on, but there's been a name that's been, I don't know if it's nationally been talked about yet, but it's being talked about down here. A quarterback that the Cowboys just traded for that they're not using. They only had to give up a 4th-round pick to give up for. That being Mr. Trey Lance. And if the Jets are real desperate and really want a quarterback that they might could do something with, hey, maybe we could make a deal. Just saying. So we'll figure something out, but it could happen. I could see something like that. So.
I don't know. I personally, if I was Jerry Jones, I would have traded for Lance either. But I mean, it cost you the 4th-round pick. The reason I like that pick for the Niners is because the Niners have made huge bank with those 3rd, 4th, and 5th-round picks. Most of their defense has come from like the 3rd, 4th, 5th-round picks. They've been getting absolute killers out of that part of the draft. So for the Niners, they've been getting gold out of that area of the draft for a while. So that's going to be a great pick that they know how to use. Whereas a lot of teams that get to the 4th round, they're like, yeah, I'm best available. Draw a name out of a hat, call that guy, and tell him congratulations, you just got drafted.
The Shanahans within that system have flourished, and just look at what they've done with Brock Purdy. The dude. He's an elite quarterback, and he was the last pick in the draft. I mean, that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But credit where it's due. What I mean? So.
Yeah, but go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think of the Aaron Rodgers situation. Personally, I think the guy just needs to hang it up. I hate to see any athlete, especially one who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, end his career in an injury. I like to see anybody who gets a chance to play end their career on the field, but this has got to be over. You know what I mean? And we'll go to the chat real quick. And Casey, this is why you're not on this show right now, because that is a joke that is legitimately a decade old. So if that 10-year-old joke is the best you can come up with, that's why you're not going to be on here. When you come up with something more recent, then
it's almost as good as saying the Cowboys will win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, maybe
I admit the Cowboys did a great job this fucking weekend. So I will admit that the Cowboys pulled one out of their ass this weekend.
Also, what's up to JSP? What's up to Mikkel? What's going on, guys? Let's see, but let's move on to the other stuff we're going to talk about today, and I'll start with you, Tex. Let's talk about the biggest winner. Who do you think was the biggest winners of Week 1, be it a team, a player, fantasy-wise, or just football-wise? Who do you think was the biggest Week 1 winner in the NFL? And I already know your answer.
Well, it's God's favorite team. It's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, did you not see that Sunday night game? I mean, it was almost as if Tom Landry looked down from the heavens and said, and blessed his children and said, I know it was a rough ending. You were this close to a championship game last season. Here's something to lift those spirits. And, thank you, Tom Landry. So, just saying, But no, seriously, obviously the Cowboy game was good. But I think besides them, I think the biggest winner has to be the Detroit Lions. And even though and I'll criticize this game. It wasn't a well played game by either team. Both Kansas City obviously had the players out that they did, but both teams looked sloppy. But you know what? Detroit went in and beat the Super Bowl champions on opening night. You can't discredit that. The hype train, as they're calling it in Detroit. I don't think Detroit does anything this season, but a win is a win in this league, and you got to give it to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Foxtrot, what about you, man? Was there a player or a team that was the biggest winner of Week 1 for you?
Obviously, like Tech said, I mean, the only team to really blow out anyone is the Cowboys. Sorry, I'll behave for a little bit.
Yeah.
Cowboys. The
How
only team that.
are you choking on that $275 million getting beat by the Cleveland Browns? How's that?
That was a
So,
poor game to watch. I watched that one at the bar.
In all fairness, they spent way more on Watson. So.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, our line wasn't doing shit. Clearly, no one on the offense had thought about, hey, let's practice while it's wet outside. Because no one could catch for shit, and then our running game was shit for the Bengals. I mean, Browns definitely pulled one out, but I don't know. I feel like everyone's been like underplaying the Browns this year or last season. It's like they've been working. They've been working hard and trying to get their team up to something better than what it was and being the sustainable Ohio. They're proving that they've worked hard during the offseason for the last few seasons to build their team. But, I got to agree. Like, watching the Lions take over the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions for last season, and then they come back, while granted they only won by a point, they worked hard for those points. And it was clear that they were working hard and pushing for the effort. And not only that, but what? They caused the third interception that Mr. Mahomes has had in his whole career at this point. I mean, hey, take that as a win.
I agree. Yeah, to me, I almost went ahead and said Dallas because I mean it was really the most dominant game of the Week 1. The reason why I'm going to just agree with you guys and say Detroit is for a couple reasons. Number one, Dallas stomped a team that they really should have stomped. I mean, I'm not saying that it was bad, but I mean, as much as I wanted to think the Giants were going to be contenders this year, I didn't watch them at all in the preseason. They just proved to me that in that game that they're not good. I mean, it's one thing to lose the game, but it's another thing to get handed your ass. And Daniel Jones was never right. I mean, I never heard Saquon Barkley's name. I didn't watch the entire game, but it's like I didn't hear his name for the whole game. It's like, and he's really and past Saquon Barkley, don't have a lot of big weapons. They got some young weapons, but they're not mature enough yet to be great, to really carry a team when one of the other stars is not getting it done. So, but yeah, I mean they beat up on the little kid, which is fine because that's what you're supposed to do in a game like that. I didn't want to say I personally, and here's why I think the Niners win over Pittsburgh was probably a bigger win than Dallas. We know that the Giants weren't a very good team. There's high hopes for Pittsburgh coming into this year. I was actually very surprised that game was as much of a blowout as it was, because if you think about it, by the time the Niners had scored on the fourth consecutive drive in the second quarter, that game was over. I was just like, I'm a Niner fan, and I'm kind of bored with this at halftime. I mean, it's like great. Christian McCaffrey's already run for 100 yards and a touchdown, and Ayuk's already got 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Brock Purdy is suddenly looking like Joe Montana, but I'm like, I still want a competitive game. That game wasn't competitive at all either. But the only reason I give the Niners a slight edge in that is because they were playing what I think is a better team in Pittsburgh. I like Kenny Pickett. I think he can be something. He wasn't something in that game. I'll give Kenny Pickett a little bit of slack, though, because he's playing one of the better, maybe the best defense in the NFL. And this is his first full year as the starter. So I'm going to give him room to grow. So I'm not going to shit on him too much. But really, ultimately, I have to agree with you guys. It's got to be Detroit. And here's why I think that we should give Detroit a lot more credit for beating Kansas City than a lot of people are giving them. People are saying they didn't have Travis Kelce. Great. They didn't have who's the defensive guy that didn't
Cook.
play? Cook. They didn't have Cook. It's like, great. If you're that good of a team, you can lose a Travis Kelce and still beat a team that is good, not great, but is good. You should still be able to win that game. The fact that they were the fact that they have to lean on, oh, we didn't have Travis Kelce and we didn't have Cook. You're like, you're still the defending Super Bowl champion. You still won 2 of the last 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You still have most of the pieces in your roster that have done all this over the last 4 years. It's like you should walk out there even without Kelce and still run roughshod over this young, growing team. Now, the fact that they couldn't do that with Mahomes, who some people think is the best quarterback in the business right now, and Mahomes throws a pick 6. I'm sorry, you can't blame that pick 6 on Travis Kelce not being there to catch it. You can't blame that pick 6 on Cook not being there.
No, but you can't blame that on the receiver, though.
But you know what? Seriously, that kind of, you can't put it on Kelce. I don't even put it on the receiver. Mahomes threw the ball.
Mahomes should have been aware of that scenario.
Mahomes threw the ball, but he hit the man in the hands. Literally, Kadarius Toney had that ball here. He should have had that.
And I get it, but it exposes a couple of things for me. Number one is that their wide receiving core is not as good as a lot of people think it is. Because what that game tells me is that if you don't have Travis Kelce, that you're going to have a trouble beating even a middling team in the NFL, and that to me does not say Super Bowl champion. You take Travis Kelce out of the lineup, and it ruins you to the point that you can't beat a decent, growing, up-and-coming Detroit team. I can't understand how you can say that they're so great when one guy missing ruins the whole thing. I mean, I honestly think, and I'll go to Dallas to show you some love. If you had to take CeeDee Lamb out for a game, there are other people in Dallas's lineup. If there's another receiver that can step up. What's your guys' number 2 receiver? I forget his name.
Michael Gallup.
And I think you guys drafted somebody else too who a lot of people are really high on. You've got Pollard. Last year you had Ezekiel Elliott, but I mean, you've got people that can make things happen. So if Dallas is going into that game and they're missing CeeDee Lamb, they're not going to give the game up the way that they did. They maybe some fluky thing will happen and they'll lose, but I mean, they're not going to lose ugly the way that Kansas City did. You know what I mean? I don't know. Kansas City didn't put up points and all this, and they're trying to blame it all on Travis Kelce not being there. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
If you got to blame someone being out for the reason why you guys didn't win, there's a fundamental problem with that. It's a team effort. It's not one person or another. So the fact that they just want to say 1 or 2 people are missing and that was the whole problem. No, that's not the whole problem. That's just what you guys are sugarcoating it as.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit. Like I said, I'm not a Chief defender. I don't care. They're not my team. I'm a Cowboy fan. But one thing I will say is that whole team, obviously last year they lost Tyreek Hill. He went on to Miami. Travis Kelce was already like 25% of the offense before that. And I think he was like 30-something% after Tyreek Hill left. And when, I think it was Michael Irvin that said this the other day. He said, Mahomes and Kelce are like Batman and Robin. Now, which one is Batman? Which one is Robin? Personally, I think Travis Kelce is more important than Patrick Mahomes, but those two have such a connection going back years that when you take that out, now I will agree, their receiver core is not as deep as it should be. I think they've been riding on the Mahomes-Kelce train for a long time, and it's been profitable. They got 2 Super Bowls out of it. But, Andy Reid, it's real easy to get comfortable on that crutch of Kelce and Mahomes. But when you don't have it, we see, what happens on opening night. But I don't think they were ready. Mahomes looked sloppy. Even taking Kelce out of it, he just go back and look at how he was reading the defense. He didn't seem like himself. Joe Burrow, in Cincinnati, he didn't seem like himself. Look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't play like anything like he did last year. A lot of teams look sloppy in week 1. And I think Patrick Mahomes is so apparent because he's your sitting MVP and Super Bowl champion. And, yeah, Detroit won the game. But like I said, it was I don't put that interception on Mahomes. I put that on Kadarius, and I don't think they were prepared. I think they kind of saw, oh, it's just Detroit. We don't have to prepare, and they got caught with their pants down. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Ultimately, I think the biggest winner of all this is the Detroit fans. I mean,
that team has been
the team has been so bad for so long. And, I've said it. I said it a bunch on Derailed that places like Cleveland and Detroit, that they're not the cities they once were in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Really, you can't attract any talent to these places. They all want to go to New York or LA or go to one of these teams that's constantly winning, like Kansas City or Dallas, which is a team that they have a winning record every year. They make it to the playoffs every year. You can go to those teams and you're going to build. You're not just going to put up stats and have a chance at winning. You're going to build your brand, because that's important to athletes. Building their brand. You can't do that when you're playing in Detroit. You can't do that when you're playing Cleveland. I mean, look at LeBron.
Yeah, but
LeBron James' hometown is basically Cleveland and Akron, and he bounced that place not once but twice because the brand is important, and he knew that he couldn't attract people to play there. So he was like, I can get a bunch of people to come play with me in LA. Can get a bunch of people to come play with me in Miami. Who doesn't want to live and work in Miami? But I can't do it in Cleveland, so I'm out of here, kids. Not once, but twice. But in Detroit, and that's one of the things that's been happening, is that the town's been on a steady decline for the last 30 years, and it's hard to get people to want to come there and play unless you're being dominant. And they slowly have put together some young talent, and now they're going to start making some noise. And I think that's a great thing for the fans. It's a great thing for the city, and I really do hope it holds up, because I think that Detroit's been a long-suffering city for a while.
I don't think it will, though. I don't see Detroit. I mean, just look in the NFC. You've got Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas, all better than them. Minnesota won 13 games last season within their own division. I don't see Detroit getting past any of those four teams, especially in a playoff.
Maybe not this year. And there's an outside shot that they win the division this year. It's even more outside that Detroit wins the division now that I think Green Bay might actually be a little bit better than I thought they would be with Jordan Love being a first-year starter. If he can put together a string of games like he did in week one, then maybe there's going to be then maybe they'll have some trouble fighting for a playoff spot. But I mean, coming into the year, I was like, they won 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 8 or something like that. I mean, they won a real hot streak at the end of the year. So, I mean, it's possible. Maybe something there is brewing. Again, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. But the difference between
wild card contenders, probably.
Maybe. I mean, maybe
considering there's 3 wild card teams, they're probably going to make it, because is Detroit a top 5 team? Maybe, but at best they're 5th. So if you're going by that measuring stick, they could get maybe they play in super wild card weekend because NFL wants more TV rights. That may be the only game that they get to, but even then, I don't see. They may win a playoff game, but they're not going any further than wild card weekend.
Yeah,
they're not going to win.
That would be a huge win for them, though. That would be a great season for them.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, I get that, but I just, like I said, hype is a great thing. But what happens when you build something up so good? Oh, this movie, I mean, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. Then you go see it, and you want your money back as you're leaving the theater. How many times has this happened? Happened to me a lot of times. So that's my only thing to the Detroit fans is don't get too excited, because if it does fall apart, you're going to be back let down, and that attendance is going to drop down like it has in the past, and then the franchise goes. It is what it is. What you going to do?
Yeah, but go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Who do you think the biggest winner of week 1 of the NFL season this year was? Was it a team? Was it a player? Was it a fan base the way I think? Let us know, who do you think the biggest winner was. Move on to the next thing. Let's move on to the waiver wire now. I'll go to you first, Tex. It's Wednesday. This is when the waiver wires all process. Who's one of the players that you think is really going to pop? Maybe even one that you might target in your waiver wire for your various leagues this week.
Well, there was one that really stood out to me, because I've got 7 fantasy teams in the hole, and I have Cooper Kupp on a couple of those teams. Well, obviously he's hurt, and somebody that really stood out to me that was really helping produce was, and I had to write his name down because I'm probably going to screw it up, so my apologies. But Puka Naku, I think is how you say his name. He's basically the Rams' number 2 wide receiver. He really stepped up this week.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, going into this week and further, he's going to be their number 1 wideout for the Rams. And the guy really produced. He did what a good number 2 does. When your first guy falls out, he steps up and goes forward. I mean, the Rams have a decent team. They have a chance to do something. We'll see what it is. But yeah, if you haven't got Pukanaku in your lineup, I forget what percentage of leagues he was rostered in. I think it was 60 something. I believe it was low 60s when I looked earlier, but I could be wrong. But check and see if he's available, especially if you're a Los Angeles fan, because I think this guy, he may not be a Jefferson out of like Minnesota or something, but he can be a decent wideout that gets you some points, especially off your bench.
That's interesting. My only knock on that would be that we don't really know yet what Matt Stafford can still do, and he's playing the Niner defense this week. So,
well,
but long term, possible, yeah.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Yeah, you're playing the Niner defense. You're probably not going to do great, but we don't know how long Cooper Kupp's going to be out. Somebody's got to step up and take that role. And I would say anybody playing against the Niner or Cowboy defense right now is probably going to have a bad day. But going past that, I think you can do some producing. So I'm not saying he's your number 1, wide receiver. I could see him being a good 2 or 3, especially a good 3 if you could get him in your league. But yeah, like I said, if you can get Naku, go pick him up.
Yeah, Marcus, how about you? You muted yourself just in time for me to come to you and ask. Who's one of the guys on the waiver wire that you're looking at this week to maybe add?
I mean, anyone in particular, because this is my first time actually trying to take fantasy football seriously. Other than me doing it with family, which is more ha fun. We're gonna do this. We're gonna see how it goes. It's just for kicks and giggles. Up until this year, I haven't really paid attention to a lot of players. It's been OSU, and then the Bengals, and then whoever the hell we happen to be facing that week. But I know for sure, I'm definitely not putting them on my list of people that I want on my teams. But, I mean, CJ Stroud and Justin Field, I just want to see them do better. Or hopefully not get their ass handed to them just as much. But that's just because they're old OSU players. Mainly because Aaron Jones, or Aaron Jones, don't know how to pronounce that, from Green Bay, he's one of my top wide receivers. It's already questionable.
He's injured right now.
Yeah, he's questionable for this week, and he pulled a hamstring, ending out the last week's game on one of his touchdowns. So I've got to keep an eye on him and just other running backs, because surprisingly I only drafted 2 of those. Shows you how prepared and well I know how many I need to draft for all those. I'm hoping that the Bengals pull it out, mainly because really the catching game was horrible on all aspects. Like even Joe or CJ, English. Joe Burrow and the Chase mix, that wasn't even working out for the game. Like something's got to be done there.
Yeah,
like
tell me about it.
Yeah, I know you got what. I know you got one or 2 of them.
I doubled up on Burrow and Chase, and
that's
ultimately. I mean, I don't know for sure that I would have won in our league on sleeper, but I don't know that it would have made a difference if they'd have put together at least an average game. But yeah, it was tough to look at that scoreboard after the end of this week.
Oh no, Hicks definitely helped tank me for that one, because he's the only one who didn't score anything out of everyone I had listed. Like even our third, Tyler Boyd, at least caught caught a catch and got a few points for that. So honestly, I'm kind of gonna be keeping an eye on now the Jets' backup quarterback, or I guess former starter quarterback, because he gives him a shot to maybe pull his head off his ass and prove that he can start. Otherwise, the Jets have got to figure out someone to recover for him and take that number 1 spot again.
Yeah, for me, so I was taking a wait and see approach to Jordan Love, but I got to be honest, I picked him up in one of my leagues. I had to. I was really blown away with the fact that he went out there and was so good the first game. Now, do I think that he's going to win 12, 13 games this year and lead them to a deep playoff run? I don't know that that's going to happen, but he's clearly ready. And this is one of the things that I like about letting a guy sit for a couple of years after you draft and build him up into your system, because when it comes down to it, he finally gets a chance to come into the game like Jordan Love did coming in after Rodgers leaves Green Bay. And he's been in the system a couple of years. He's ready. He's had a chance to pick the brain of a guy like Aaron Rodgers. He's comfortable with his coach. He knows the players already. And the scary part is they're not even good yet. He's got a young – I think they over the course of last year, they've become like the 4th or 5th youngest team in the NFL. They drafted the tight end this year with one of the picks that they got from the Jets. They drafted a wide receiver, and they had another young wide receiver that Rodgers didn't really get on the same page with last year until like the last 5 or 6 games of the year. That's got a lot of potential. So there's something there, and they've got a pretty solid running back already. I've got Aaron Jones in I think at least one of my leagues, maybe 2. But
I've got him in a couple of leagues.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what I saw from him from week 1. Now again, am I willing to bet my whole fantasy season on him? Not yet. No. Not yet. Matter of fact, in one of my leagues, I dropped a wide receiver that I just kind of had as filler and picked him up, and I'm actually rolling 3 quarterbacks deep in that league now. But
really, wow, okay.
You know what? Like I said, I had a spot that I could squeeze him into with a wide receiver that I just had for shits and giggles, and I was like, I'm going to jump in there and get him before anybody else does, and maybe if somebody wants him to, ironically enough, take over for Rodgers in their starting lineup that. Or something like that, or if their quarterback falters or whatever, maybe I can use it for trade bait. But I mean,
yeah, I was supposed to say
or
trade
maybe
bait.
Or if one of my picks doesn't work out, and maybe you never know. But if one of my quarterbacks doesn't work out, I can always just drop them, and I've got 2 quarterbacks still. But yeah, now he was drafted in I think 53% of leagues, but he was only started in like 9. So I don't know how much of a sleeper he is really, but I was really impressed with how he came out right out of the gate and put together a really, really good game. I mean, he threw for 200-something yards and like 3 touchdowns. That's not a bad gig. It's not a bad time for your first real start of your NFL franchise career. You know what I mean? I know he started a couple of games last year or year before last or something like that when Rodgers got hurt in Green Bay and didn't look great, but I was like, it's your first game action. You got to give him a few games to kind of get it right. But he had a whole preseason to himself for the team. He's in position now to be great in Green Bay, and Green Bay has had good luck with quarterbacks the last 25 years or so. There's been a couple of Super Bowls, a bunch of MVPs.
Well,
and a lot of
that's what I was going to say.
Position, so.
What kind of luck would it be for Green Bay to go from Brett Favre, a franchise QB, to Aaron Rodgers, another franchise QB, to somehow get a third franchise QB with Love? Like that's I don't think any team's ever done that.
The odds of going from one franchise quarterback to another consecutively are pretty large.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
They did it with the Niners. I mean, from Montana to Young. I'm trying to think of another team that's done it. I mean,
I can't think of one.
I can't think of another team that has done it even once. I mean, just from one franchise Hall of Fame quarterback right to another. I can't think of anybody who's done it once. I mean, you could conceivably say the Chargers, maybe they went from Drew Brees, who ended up leaving, to Phillip Rivers. I think both those guys will be in the Hall of Fame, but they haven't had nearly that kind of success, especially in San Diego.
I don't know about Rivers in the Hall of Fame, but
I think Rivers will probably be in the Hall of Fame. He put together some good numbers. He could never win a ring, but I mean, he put together good numbers. I mean, look, Marino's in the Hall of Fame. He was a fantastic quarterback, way better than the lack of rings on his fingers would suggest. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's Jordan Love. I mean, that was one of the people. I think a lot of people were just kind of standing back, and they were like, "I'm going to put him on my watch list on my fantasy league, but I'm not going to jump on him just yet because I want to see. I want to see what the guy's got." And I think the first week we kind of saw what he's got. So I picked him up in one of my leagues. I'm watching him in the rest of them. I think in one of my leagues somebody already has him, but I'm like, JSP says Manning to Andrew Luck could have been a great transition had it not been for Luck's injuries. Well, again, offensive line, people. Offensive line.
Same problem you ran into Burrow his first season. Offensive line didn't hold up. He ends up injured beginning of the season.
Yeah, offensive line. I mean, to be absolutely honest, a lot of people thought the Bengals probably would have beat the Rams a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, but their offensive line was their glaring weak spot. Some people think that if they had a better offensive line, that game might have gone different. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. It's just what I think. But I don't know. Go down in the comments though. Let us know what you guys think. Who are you chasing on waivers? Who's somebody that you're interested in? Let us know in the comments below. Now, let's hit the panic button here for just a second, guys. I'll go to you first, Marcus. Is there anybody? Is it this time yet? Is there a player on your roster that you're about to panic on already after week one?
I mean, kind of a little bit here. Like Eric said, Aaron Jones. I'm not going to complete panic like we're going to smash the button, but I'm like, Aaron Jones has already got me concerned. Like he's already has hamstring. I'm pretty sure he'll play this weekend. I'm hoping Bengals get their heads out of their ass and T. Higgs actually does it. But I'm getting ready to change because I got Dylan Jones as technically was my backup quarterback. And honestly, I'm getting rid of him. After me watching what just happened Monday night, I'm like, there's got to be a better option out there, even if it's just a secondary somewhere else.
I don't know. Tex, how about you? As you look at your rosters across your multiple fantasy teams, just like me, is there somebody that you're panicking on right now already after week one?
Well, 3 of my teams, my first round draft pick was Travis Kelce. And I'm not quite hitting the panic button yet, but I've put in the code to launch the nukes just in case I do need to fire on somebody. And, I mean, the last report I saw was they drained 45 cc's of blood off of that knee that he hyperextended. And considering how versatile he is with his legs, I know his status is back to questionable and he's limited practicing. But even if he were to come back, it's going to take a few weeks to get that wheel back right going again. And considering I used a first round pick for this guy a couple times, like I said, I'm not slamming that panic button down yet, but I'm definitely keeping my eye on it because it's hard to win in any league when your first round pick doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? So hopefully he's better. It is what it is. So what you got?
I wouldn't panic on him yet, especially from a fantasy standpoint, because if you think about it, even if he misses the first 2 weeks, he's going to be healthy as shit down the stretch because he's got 2 weeks less wear on him.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
Especially down the stretch of the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
Down the stretch of the fantasy season. And, if they are in a bit of a gunfight for home field advantage or a better playoff seeding, they're going to continue to throw the ball around and try to rack up some points, and that's where Kelsey's going to shine later on in the year.
I think
that could be a big help for you late.
I would rather him sit this week just to give him another 7 days to try to heal than miss more time later on in the season. So if I have to sacrifice a little now versus a lot later, that's what I'd rather do. But I mean, I'm not Andy Reid. I don't make these decisions. So I just hope he's not too busy dating Taylor Swift, apparently, like the reports say. And he's actually playing football. So get your head in the game, dude. I need you here. I need to win these games, by God. So.
Well, you got to hope like hell they get married or something, because if she's got to write a song about breaking up with Travis Kelce, that might just ruin his entire career.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Jessica Simpson ruined Tony Romo. If Taylor Swift ruins Travis Kelce, by God, I'm going to be pissed. That's all I'm saying. So,
I'll never love another blonde ever again.
Well, let's not go that far. Let's not go that far, right? But
Them
yeah,
damn blondes, nothing but trouble. They say redheads, but I think it's blondes. I'm sure of it. But for me, I'm not hitting it quite yet. It's week 1, but for more than a year, I've been wanting this guy to blow up, and it's Sky Moore. All last year I was like, he's a young guy with a lot of upside. He's got Patrick Mahomes, maybe the best quarterback in the NFL, throwing to him. And he had flashes last year, but he was a little buried on the depth chart. He was behind not Tyreek Hill. He was behind who was the guy that just left? They got from Pittsburgh. Schuster.
Oh yeah.
They had him last year, and then they had somebody else. So he was like the third receiver. So he had flashes, and then as soon as Juju Smith-Schuster left and went to New England, I was like, okay, he might move up in the number 2 spot. That's a good spot to be in for Mahomes because you're going to see a lot of like slot work and stuff like that. Maybe he'll run up some yak yardage, some yards after the catch. He might catch some good short touchdowns. I was like, this is a time for him to shine. He got me 0.4 points last week. And I'm like, now granted, I mean, and this is where I might try to lean on the not Travis Kelce thing. It's like when you take away their biggest weapon, it makes it easier for defenses to cover the guys that you do have out there. So maybe it was just the fact that he was getting tougher coverage than he would normally see. But I'm a year into this guy now where I've been wanting him to really blow up, and I've had a lot of confidence in him coming out of college, and he's not quite there yet. I'm going to give him another couple of weeks because I want to see what happens after Kelce comes back and the defense has to spread out a little bit. I want to make sure Mahomes, because Mahomes is really weird too. He has 2 or 3 games a year where his mechanics get kind of out of whack, and he has trouble throwing for high percentage. And he only threw for 53 or 54% completion percentage this last week. So I'm
that's what I was saying. He didn't look.
Yeah, the completion
Kansas
percentage
City didn't look ready.
Yeah, you can't blame his completion percentage on Travis Kelce not being there. I mean, maybe Kelce would have caught 1 or 2 more balls than were caught, but you're making a 53 or 54% completion, a 56% completion percentage, and that's still not great for Patrick Mahomes. That's not a good number really for anybody, especially Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know. I'm holding out hope for Sky Moore that he actually has a better. That he kind of warms up and gets his legs under him a little bit and has a much better time moving forward. But God, I mean, I really hate finding these guys out of college and having them disappoint me like this.
I don't know.
What were you going to say?
I dropped him from one of my teams. I had him, but I forget who. I think I picked up. I dropped more for, I think it was Edwards, the running back out of for the Ravens, since Dobbins is out for the season or whatever.
Yeah, Dobbins hurt his Achilles. Yeah, Dobbins out for the year with an Achilles, just like Rodgers.
But I saw Edwards out there, and I didn't watch the Baltimore game. I went and saw the highlights, and I kind of saw the point spread that Edwards had put up, and the lowest white talent that I could drop for him was Moore, so I had to cut him. But it is what it is. But we'll see.
I'm really hoping that he's going to be kind of like Ayuk with the Niners. That it's going to be a slow. It's going to be a slow first, like 6 or 8 games while he's while he's getting together. Because the same thing happened with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. He got off to a really slow start, didn't look that great, dropped a couple easily thrown balls, and then he finally figured it out like halfway through his second year. And then from then on out, he has just been an absolute freaking monster. I mean, week 1, what we saw him do against Pittsburgh, I think is a glimpse of what that guy can be moving forward. So, and I'm hoping Sky Moore can do that. He's got a great quarterback throwing to him, Mahomes. They've got a better offensive line. Kelce coming back is going to spread the defenses out a little bit more and might get him some opportunities. So I'm hoping against hope that he figures this shit out. But I don't know, man. I'm not wanting to hit the eject button on him just yet. But I'm going to give him a couple more weeks. Like I said, Mahomes is also a factor here. If he's hitting that point already in the first couple games of the season to where his mechanics are off or his accuracy is off and he has to kind of get himself back to center before he's the Patrick Mahomes and we all get used to seeing in the big games. If that's happening early in the year, I'll just stash Sky Moore somewhere on my bench and be like, okay, when Mahomes gets his shit together, Sky Moore's numbers will probably start to increase a little bit, and he'll be worth keeping on the roster.
Well,
but I hate to drop the guy, and then somebody else will take a flyer on him, and then all of a sudden that guy throws out a couple of 120-yard games and a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had to do the same thing with Jerick McKinnon for Kansas City. I mean, go back to the draft show that we did. He was the first name that I threw out praising this guy for what he did for me in the playoffs last season. I mean, McKinnon carried me for the second half of last year into the championship rounds, and he hasn't done anything so far. He looked horrible in that first game. Him and Mahomes, just like with Moore, had no connection whatsoever. Now, I didn't cut Jerick McKinnon, but I'm hoping Jerick gets it together because I know what the guy can do, but him and Mahomes just have to figure it out. You know what I mean? So we'll see what comes of the Chiefs. I mean, we'll see. I mean, they're the Super Bowl champions. I mean, at some point they're going to get something right. You know what I mean?
Hopefully.
Right. Yeah, like I said, Patrick Mahomes has that weird 2 or 3 game stretch every year where things get a little out of whack. He brings it back to center, and then he's usually good for the rest of the year. But honestly, I pity most of the AFC if he's having that trouble now and he gets it back together for the rest of the year. I mean, they could rattle off 11, 12 wins in a row real fucking quick and end up getting the home field advantage, and then everything has to go through Kansas City again.
I picked Cincinnati to beat them anyways. I don't think Kansas City is as good as they were. I think, initially I picked Josh Allen to lead his team to the Super Bowl with Buffalo, but after seeing what I did week 1, I may change my prediction. But I do think Cincinnati's better than Kansas City. And, I mean, hasn't Joe Burrow beaten Mahomes every time they played one another?
Other than the last time during the playoffs. Pretty much, there was in the Bengals. Yeah. It was Burrowhead Stadium for the last 3 seasons for a reason.
Yeah, like I said, I think Cincinnati gets it together quicker than Kansas City does this year, but we'll see what happens.
I definitely hope so, but I think it's going to be a close one. I think again, Kansas City won it up to the playoffs, and we'll make it there too if it's by the skin of our teeth again, like we have few seasons. And honestly, I think it's going to come down again to Bengals-Kansas face-off. Which one can pick it up over the other one?
Is there a third team that you see that could maybe sneak in there and cause some headaches for both the Bengals and the Chiefs?
Like I said earlier, the Browns. Honestly, as much as I like to give the Browns hell, they've done a lot, and it's clearly shown. The Browns have technically beaten the Bengals. I think with this one, the last 5 times we faced them. And considering we were defending champions the year beforehand and we made it to the conference again last year, I mean, it says a lot that we're losing to the Browns right now, as much as I'd hate to say it. Steelers, I think they're going to possibly just make it winning season. That's where I'm putting them at. They're just going to have a positive season, ride it out. Definitely got my eye on Green Bay right now. Is there gonna be a threat one way or another?
Well, I mean specifically in the AFC. It's like I think everybody kind of looks at everything and they say, okay, it's the Bengals and Chiefs that are kind of the cream of the crop. But is there another team in the AFC that could jump into that mix and maybe end up knocking out one of those teams earlier in the playoffs, or giving them hell when it comes to home field advantage?
Raiders. Really? I think the Raiders are flying so. I think the Raiders are flying so under everyone's radar right now that they're gonna come back somewhere and bite us in the ass. I don't think we even technically play the Raiders this year, but still.
Go look at the NFL standings real quick. NFL standings. Now, this is after 1 week, so it's either going to be 0-1 or 1-0 for everybody, but just to kind of
Raiders were the only ones who technically won inside theirs. AFC West, they're the only ones out of their setup to win.
So, I mean, in the AFC East, I mean, I think the Dolphins can still be good. I don't know how good. The Bills, I'm actually kind of worried about after seeing week one. Raiders, I don't know. If they do with Garoppolo what the Niners did and just kind of let the supporting cast do all the work and don't put it on Garoppolo's shoulders, then I think they can win a lot of games. The division, though, I think is going to be tough, especially when you're in the division with Chiefs. The Chargers, the Broncos, I really wanted the Broncos to do better this year. They only lost by 1 point. That's not terrible, but I mean, I'm still kind of iffy on what they're going to do. In the North, I mean, I don't share your optimism about the Browns. I just can't. I mean,
that's fair. Hey, I mean,
I think I think they caught the Bengals on a bad day.
Yeah,
I really feel like when did the Bengals and the Browns play again?
End of the season.
Yeah, I would imagine by the time we get to week 17 or 18, the last week of the season is that the Bengals have got their shit together and the Browns have spent the last couple of months showing us who they really are.
It's going to be in the end of the season, and it's at home. It's in Cincinnati. And depending on where both teams sit at, it's not going to be our starters on either team. If the Bengals when the Bengals make it to the playoffs, we're going to put in backups, let Burrow rest, let some of our starters rest, unless it happens to be a game where we have to clutch and definitely win. Otherwise, we're not going to make it.
Yeah, but losing week one to the Cleveland Browns kind of puts a hamper in those plans, especially when you get week 9, 10, 11, when maybe you could clinch, but now you have to keep going and continue to play your starters because you lost to a team you should have clobbered in week one.
Yeah, but they lost in week one last year and made it back to the AFC title game. I think they lost in week one the year before that and then ended up going to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, you can. It's hard to say that you can make that argument right now because we have no idea how the standings are going to shake out. For all we know, the Bengals are going to go 6-16 the rest of the season, and
I wouldn't be so worried about the Raiders. I'd be more worried about Miami. After seeing what I did from them, the only thing that's holding me back from really predicting them from doing anything is what kind of condition is Tua going to be in. Obviously, the concussion problems he had last season and everything else. I don't know if he can hold up. I mean, he's a talent, but I'm not sure his body's going to be able to let him do what it's capable of. They've got weapons. They've got a good team, but I don't know. Like I said, I think, especially after if Josh Allen can't keep that ball together, and stop turning the stupid thing over, he's going to give it all the way. The Bills are good. They've got weapons. Stephon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in football. But if Josh Allen can't get the ball to him, then he ain't, it doesn't matter. But, besides obviously the Chiefs, the Bengals, I think the Dolphins are one that need to be watched here too, but I still say Cincinnati ends up in the Super Bowl if I had to pick right now.
What about Jacksonville? Jacksonville looked pretty good. Things may finally be starting to come together for them. Do you think Jacksonville makes a little bit of noise this year in the AFC?
No, I picked Jacksonville. Once again, go back to the draft show we did. I think Jacksonville's going to make some points. I've got Trevor Lawrence in our auto pick league that we have, and I've got a few other Jaguars on some of my other teams, but I don't think they go all the way. I think Jacksonville's going to be one of those teams that they have better fantasy guys than actual league players, and I'm hoping so because hey, I've got Trevor Lawrence himself. Now I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a good quarterback for a really long time. I'm a fan of this guy, and like I said, I don't root for anybody that's not wearing a star on their helmet. But if I could get him on the Cowboys, I'd be more than happy to and get him out of Jacksonville, especially if get rid of Dak's worthless. But we'll see. I think Jacksonville. I see Jacksonville as more of a mid-level threat. They kind of flirt around with it. Maybe win their division, more likely playoff or a wild card team. But I still think all routes go through Cincinnati when it comes to the AFC this year.
Well, let's end with this. Let's get personal here, guys. I'll go to you first, Tex. How'd you do the first week? Grade your performance across your leagues as a whole. How do you think you did?
Well, numbers-wise, I went 5-2. And The only two that I lost in our auto draft league and one of my others. And the other one that I lost in was the team that had Kelsey out, and I also had a couple other players key that were out for me. Overall, I did great. I mean, anytime you can, get a winning record is fine. I would have liked to have won those other two. It kind of bugs me that I wasn't able to draft my actual team, but hey, that was the whole fun of the league and why we put it.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And one of the things that's interesting about that is it challenges us to actually make trades and use the waiver wire, which is where you actually win fantasy titles anyway. You don't win your fantasy title in the draft; you win on the waiver wire. So,
well, see, that's the thing. I'm a no trade kind of fantasy player. Like whenever I go into the draft, I go after the guys that I want and try to get as many of them as possible. The challenge with this league is to go at it from a different approach and why it's fun. But I mean, I won 5 of my other leagues. I'm happy. Like I said, I've been making a good bit of moves. But I'd say overall, I give it a B plus. B to a B plus somewhere in there. I did well. I'm happy with the first week of results.
Well, Marcus, how about you? You said to yourself you're new playing in like the money leagues, the slightly more serious leagues. Week 1 in the books. How do you think you did for your first week?
I mean, just going off of what Sleeper tells me here, apparently I was the most efficient guy and predicted points-wise to get up there. I was predicted to get 139 points. I only made, what? Well, yeah, I only made 139 points. I was predicted to get 143, so that's not too bad efficient-wise. It does suck because technically I lost. But then again, it comes down to there were a few guys. T. Higgins didn't catch a thing. All the passes gone to him, he just either didn't catch or overran. Right now, I give myself a good solid C. Like, I got room to improve. Obviously, I got to understand a little bit better on who to drop, who to pick up, when to put them in, when to take them out. But it could have been a lot worse. Like, I could have just been, like, picking guys who I just wanted just because their names sound cool and fancy versus trying to, like, take it seriously. Like, my first draft pick was Justin Jefferson. And that's just he's the best quarterback wide receiver out there. Like, I got the first round pick. I got to pick someone I know who's going to be solid throughout.
I only had, in all of my drafts this year, I had the number 1 overall pick in my buddy Sean's league. That's our cheaper $10 league. And I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and take Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I know that as long as he stays healthy, and I still worry about his health, despite the fact that he was fine last year. I still worry about his health, but I was like, I mean, this is a guy who I know is going to put up points as long as he's on the field. So I'm going to go ahead and do this because I feel like some of the wide receivers, they'll have boom games, but they'll have 3 or 4 boom games. They'll have 4 or 5 bust games. So I'm like, I feel like McCaffrey's the one guy who's such a multi-talented player that he's always going to get me at least an average point total that is slightly above what most people are going to give me. So that to me was an easy number 1 pick. As far as the rest of them, I just kind of went, running back first, just so I knew I had at least one solid one. And then the rest of the way out, just filled out my rosters with the best players that I could, kind of the way that I wanted to build it. Knowing, of course, where guys' average draft positions were and stuff like that, kind of figuring where they would fall or if I wanted to reach for somebody, that kind of thing. In my money leagues, I went 2-1 this week. It's not terrible. I would have been a lot closer to going 3-0 had I not doubled up on Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and both of them laid absolute eggs for me. But that's, what, I do it every year. I double up with a quarterback and a wide receiver combo, and that's one of the things that can happen when you do that. The good news is, look, I did it with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones one year, and that led me to a title. But it was many years ago. But those guys cooked for me for a solid year. They were putting up big numbers.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm rocking that too. Right now, I got Trevor Lawrence and I got C.J. Ridley for Jacksonville. Yeah. I'm rocking that duo right there.
Well,
and Ridley gives him a good threat over the top.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think I want Travis Kelce back so bad? Because Patrick Mahomes is a freaking quarterback on that team, and I want to see magic from those two guys. But, just saying. I'm not bitter at all. I'm not bitter whatsoever. It's fine.
Not at all.
No worries.
Yeah. I think that I may take Burrow out next week. I think in that league, I think I have Burrow as my starter. I think I have Kirk Cousins as my bench quarterback. I may consider sitting Burrow next week just to not risk it. But part of me also thinks that Burrow and Chase are going to come in a little pissed off, and they might actually, give it a good old-fashioned West Coast ass whooping to whoever's next just because they're pissed. So I'm like, part of me is like, what? I don't know. I'll look at my roster tonight and I'll figure something out. But go down in the comments and let us know. How have you guys started the week? How did you guys start the year? Week 1, do you think you did great, or did things start to fall apart very, very soon? Again, it's really, really early, so it's hard to make a lot of assumptions. You don't want to hit the panic button on anything just yet, but there were some interesting things that we saw. The Aaron Rodgers injury, a couple of Achilles injuries, actually, with J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, a couple of guys, a lot of guys just didn't perform very well. A couple of guys that performed way ahead of expectations. It was an interesting week 1 for the NFL this year, especially fantasy-wise. So there's going to be a lot of excitement to come up for the rest of the fantasy season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we are going to be right here telling you all about it. So don't forget to come and hang out with us. So thanks a lot to my co-host for coming to hang out with me tonight. I very much appreciate it. My man Tex, the Shea from Lone Star State. What do you got going on, my friend?
Whatever we're reviewing tomorrow, and then Monday Night Saw here, we'll be doing Saws 4 through 6. Jeremy and myself will be deep diving the films like we did this past Monday, and hanging out. So y'all come join us.
And to my man Marcus, what's up, brother? I'm guessing you're probably going to try to be here every week that we do this football talk.
Oh yeah, for the football stuff, definitely. The horror stuff y'all can keep. As you know, inside the Morales family, I am not the horror guy in our group. Although I'm trying to watch a little bit more horror films just to give myself something to enjoy.
I could probably recommend films that would make you never want to speak to me ever again if you want that. So just let me know. So
I mean, you just got to put the star on your head, then I'll never want to see you again. So there's that. But no, I'm trying. I definitely want to be here for the football stuff. Kind of definitely enjoyed doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get a little bit more into getting out of my comfort zone and be like, okay, cool. I just had in my apartment all day. What else can I do on top of that?
As for me, you will find us here tomorrow. As Tex said, we'll be going over Unforgiven, the 1992 film directed by and starring the great Clint Eastwood. Not just Clint Eastwood. There is a whole plethora of fantastic actors now. Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman, quite possibly the greatest Western ever made in some people's eyes. Certainly the best Western that has been made since the Sergio Leone movies, the spaghetti Western. So come check us out tomorrow. We'll be breaking down Unforgiven from 1992. And then after that, we'll be doing Point Break from 1991. The great Point Break, the almost soap opera action film for men, which is going to be the 1991 film, not that remake that I still have not watched because I just can't bring myself to do it. I can't defile my own eyes by showing them that film. The trailers alone were atrocious. But we'll be here. Those are the next couple of reviews we're going to be doing, and then obviously next month is going to be Texas and Jeremy's favorite month. That's when we're going to start to do a much deeper dive into some of the horror stuff. Next month is the perfect month to do it. Obviously, we'll be giving our review of Saw X as soon as it comes out. We'll be breaking down The Exorcist. Some people think the greatest horror movie of all time, maybe one of the greatest movies of all time. That's going to be great. We're also going to be doing Nosferatu, the 1922 film. It's 101 years old, and we're going to give you our thoughts on Nosferatu. Still an amazingly terrifying film. That is an intimidating film without a sound. That's how good that movie actually is. I highly suggest you watch that. You can find a lot of different places. I think it's actually free on YouTube to watch. So go check it out.
Nosferatu is many places.
Yes, and it's all. And on top of that, it's a fantastic movie. So overlook the fact that it's not a modern Hollywood blockbuster and go back and watch it. Great cinematography. It's just a fantastic movie. We've actually got the rest of the year planned out at this point, so there's a whole lot going on. Some new movies, a lot of retro reviews, definitely some football talk going on. All this is going to lead up to New Year's Eve, which we're probably going to have a big hangout on New Year's Eve. So come check us out tomorrow as we break down Unforgiven. Thanks to my co-host for coming and hanging out. I very much appreciate it. Thanks to all you guys for hanging out. Who all was in here today anyway? We had Mikkel was in here. TSS just popped in. What's going on, TSS? JSP was in here. Let's see. Casey was in here for a minute, stirring up stuff just like he usually does. Thanks to all you guys for coming and hanging out with us. We very much appreciate it. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Till then, adios.
Go Cowboys.
I clicked the wrong one. I went to click the rock one, but I've really got to organize this one better.
Yeah.
I need better music to play. And I've got it all the way turned down, which is my fault because I'm an idiot.
You know,
I mean, it was the Giants. How good are the Giants?
The Cowboys went into New York on 9/11 and stomped that ass. I don't want to hear anything.
Oh, yeah.
I'm calling that game 9/11 Part 2, what we did to New York City. That's all I'm saying.
Ouch. That's like me saying that I beat up a 7-year-old and like I'm really badass now. I'm like the king of all the 7-year-olds. It doesn't make any sense.
If you did beat up a 7-year-old, then you're a terrible person. But the Cowboys still beat the Giants. That's all.
That's true.
So,